So here's a review for proportions. We're going to take a look at the strategies of setting it up and then choosing a strategy to solve it and then actually solving it. So on the left side, we're going to do this first. So proportions are a useful tool in middle school that we can use to solve ratio, rate, and percent problems. So proportions are only useful when they are set up correctly. So if you get one of the pieces out of position, well, then the cube, everything's not in the place where it should be in order to solve it. So let's take that strategy and keep it in mind, and we're going to identify the first bits of ratio information. So if we split this here, we have boys and girls represented down below, boys and girls, and then that information goes together with the given ratio that's next. So boys is 9 and girls is 5. So we're going to link these two little cubes together, and otherwise known as, we could write that as a ratio in fraction form. All right, and then we've got 72 boys. So since that's boys, we're going to put that in a little block by itself and then put that on the other side. Okay, so we got 9, 5, and then 72, and it says how many girls. So that's our x. We don't know. Okay, so we're just going to hang on to that information. And once we get over to the solving part, this is just going to slide over here until we get to the solving. So just moving on the left side. So we have houses and weeks. So we're going to block those two things. That's important information. And then we have 56 houses. So once we put the blocks over here, once you put them over here, we got to keep them organized where houses is on top and then weeks is on bottom. Okay, so that's the first two pieces, and then the third piece is going to be 12 weeks. Well, because 12 is on bottom on the left side, then we put that on bottom on the right side, and then houses is our unknown, so we can put an X in there for what we don't know. So just move that over to the right. So that's going to get to the solving part later, but we're just going to focus on one thing at a time right now. Just focus on setting up the proportions, but you putting them into blocks. Okay, so we go 500 calories in 50 minutes. So we got calories is first, so we'll put that on top, and then minutes is second, so we'll put that on bottom. All right, then we go to the next part, X number of calories we don't know in 10 minutes. Okay, so 10 is known for the minutes, and then calories is unknown. So we put that in as a variable, and then we can move this over here. Moving to the next part here, well, we need meters to millimeters. So this is known, meters and millimeters. So we've got 2.6 meters, and then how many millimeters is it? Now I move that to the right because that's the solving. So in order to start out, we need to go to our reference chart and look at meters and see what does it take to get to millimeters. Well, 1 meter is 10 centimeters, and 1 centimeter is 100 millimeters. So we're actually going to multiply those two numbers, 10 times 100, and that means we're going to need 1,000 millimeters for 1 meter. So move this over here, and that's set up for the solving part. So organize to equivalent ratios. So we're going to set up the ratios, but make sure that we're using the labels to keep it in the right spot here, and using blocks, little blocks for our ratios. Now we have ounces and pints. So 64 ounces, and we need to convert that to pints. And we don't know what the conversion will be, so that's our unknown. So that's our X. So then go to your conversion chart, and then we have pints, and then we have ounces. But in between, we have to convert cups. So 1 pint is 2 cups. And then every one of those 2 cups is 8 ounces. We do 2 times 8, which is 16 ounces for every 1 pint. So here we have $20 out of $60. So that's our part. And then our total. And then every time we see a percent, the word percent or the percent symbol, we connect that with 100. So what percent is the X? And then 100 is the total. Then we move it over to the middle for the solving later. So 70% is 70. 70 out of 100. And then it says 250 total shots. So that's the total. So the total is going to go on bottom. And then the part that we're looking for is unknown. So that's going to be on top. So you move that over to the middle for the solving strategy. And what percent? Percent is 100. And it says what percent. So we're going to put in an X over 100. We're not sure what that's going to be. We'll figure that out. We have 24 over 60. And then something over 100. So just setting up the last part here. Okay, so the last one, we got 35%. So it's 35 over 100. And then 14 is out of the total. And we don't know the total. So 14 goes on top, X goes on bottom. So once we move it over to the middle, now we look at the last question on the bottom is I can set up proportions using cube strategies and keep labels organized. So our goal is that yes, we can set up the proportion, put the part over the total, keep things in the right place. Then we can move on to the solving part. So now, once we set them up, we go to the strategy. And there's two options. You can use factors, which means you're multiplying or dividing by a number. Or if you don't know what the factor is, then you can use cross products, where you multiply across the proportion and then divide by the other missing piece. So you use two pieces multiplied and divide by the third piece to give you the fourth missing piece. Okay, so first thing is to check factors. Ask yourself. So you're going to look at the starting ratio and see if you can compare that to 72. So 9 and 72. So once you put your factor in there from 9 to 72, it's getting bigger. The number is getting bigger, so we're going to multiply and use a factor on the bottom to get the same factor to get the same multiple. So 5 times 8 would be 40, and that would be our answer. So moving to the next one. So look at your first two blocks, compare across the bottom. So 4 times the number would equal 12, and we should know that one. That's one of our multiples. So then you're going to use that same number up on top to get your answer. So that's just using our comparison, showing what direction we're going. So 56 times 3, 3 times 6, 3 times 5, 15, 16. So you have 168. So going to the next one here. So we're starting with the left blocks here, the left two, and then we compare that to 10. And now from 50 down to 10, we're not going to multiply. We're going to divide to make that smaller. So 50 divided by 5 and 500 divided by 5, and that would give us 100. So as we use the same comparison there. Okay, and so we look at our ratio over here and compare. We're going from 1 to 2.6, so that's times 2.6 as our factor. And 1,000 times 2.6. So it's just going to give us 0, 0, 0, and then 2, 6 once we multiply all this. And then we move the decimal over one place in our answer. And so we get 2,600. Okay, so I'm going to focus on finishing this up here. So on this first page, we could actually use factors to help us solve everything. Now, we could have used cross products, but that would have taken a little more work on this side. So I'm just going to cross that out. We're not going to use it on this side. We're going to go to the other side, and then we're going to look at cross products. Okay, so now we take our information here and move it over. So we got 9 over 5 and 72 over 40. And we go back to the question. It was asking to solve for girls. And so this would be 40 girls is the answer. Okay, take our information, 56 over 4 and 168 over 12. When we go back to the question was about houses. So it's 168 houses. And I'm just going to circle that right there. Okay, and then we take our information, move it over to our answer side over here. And it's 100 calories in 10 minutes. So this would be 100 calories. I think there's a double R in there, but just leave it. Okay, and then the last one, we have 1 meter is 1,000 millimeters, and then we have 2.6, and then that's compared to 2,600. And that was 2,600, and that was 2,600 millimeters was our answer. So now on the back side, what we're going to do is actually take a look at using cross products and then dividing to help us solve. So 16 times something is 64. That's not a most common multiple for students, but if you know the multiple, then you could use factors. But I'm going to use this cross product idea here just to practice. So 1 times 64 is 64. And how this works is if you go diagonally up and over between the two blocks, multiply those two things, and then you divide by the one by itself, that will give you your missing part over here. So 16 goes into 64. 5 would be too much. So let's put 4. 4 times 16, let's see, does equal 64. So 4 times 6 is 24, carry the 2. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 2 is 6. So there is no remainder. So that is your answer. That is what the missing value is. So 16 over 1 is equal to 64 over 4. 16 over 1 is equal to 64 over 4. And that was talking about pints. We were looking for pints, so that would actually be 4 pints. Now, for proportions, the way the proportions work, once they're set up, this will work every time. So we're going to loop up and around diagonally, and then we're going to divide by 60. So 20 times 20 times 100 is going to be 2,000. and then divide by 60. So 60 does not go into 2, 60 does not go into 20, 60 goes into 200 about 3 times. 3 times 6 is 18. Put the 0 on there. Then we subtract going across. Well, that's 0. Bring the 0 down. And 20 minus 18 is 2. 60 goes into 200 3 times. And this would continue having the same remainder, but that is your answer, 33%. 20 over 60 is 33 over 100, and it's asking for percent, so that would be your answer, 33%. Cross products. So we're going to circle up and over diagonally. So wherever it's diagonal, where the part is known, is going to work. So we got 250 times 70. So 0 times 0, so the first row is a bunch of zeros. We're done multiplying that. 7 times 0, 7 times 5 is 35. And 7 times 2 is 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay, and then it says divide by 100. So 70 times this, we get our cross product, and that's 17500. Dividing by 100 will just cancel the 2 zeros, so the missing value is 175. And that would be out of 250 shots, then they would have a total of 175 shots. That's 70 over 100 and then 250. That's our missing answer. Cross multiply. 100 times 24 is going to be 2400. Divided by 60. So 60 goes in there 0 times. 60 goes into there 0 times. 60 goes into 240. Look at 6 and 24. It's going to be 4. 4 times 60. There is no remainder, but you're not done dividing. There's one more 0. Bring it down. 60 goes into 0 times. So 24 out of 60 is 40 out of 100, which is 40%. Now, even though this is on the opposite side, we're still going to loop from one bottom up and over to the other side where we loop it diagonally. So that's going to be 14 times 100, 1400, divided by 35. So 35, let's see, 0, 0. And let's estimate here. 4, okay, 3 goes into 14 about 4 times, because 3 times 4 is 12. So let's check that. 4 times 5 is 0, carry the 2. 4 times 3 is 12, plus 2 is 14. Good. So we have no remainder there. Bring the 0 down. You're not done dividing. 35 divides into 0 times. So we have 14 out of 40 games, and that's 35 out of 100. And this was a total of, no, not games, that was cards. Total cards. So the last thing down below, I can use factors or cross products to solve. The goal of this activity is, once we're done, is yes, we can use factors and cross products. And then once we are done, can you label your information? And yes, as you've labeled everything over here, you can label your answer. And then we can solve proportion problems by setting them up, using strategy, and then labeling our answer.